Hi there. In this lecture we see William James Lombardy, a fellow US grandmaster, playing against Bobby Fischer in the 1967 Monte Carlo Tournament round 1. So Lombardy, playing with the white pieces, kicks off with knight f3. We see knight f6, c4, g6, b3, bishop g7, bishop b2. Fischer castles g3, so white is using a double fianchetto system. What does Fischer do against this? Well, he plays d6, the King's Indian formation, bishop g2, e5, white castles, knight c6, knight c3, and now Fischer plays knight h5. This has very aggressive intent behind it, as we're about to see. e3, f5. These pawns are going to get pretty aggressive. After d3, now, guess what Fischer plays if I give you 5 seconds to pause the video. Okay, g5. Yeah, and although the knight is an unprotected piece, it can't really be exploited. Knight e1 is played, hitting the knight. If knight takes e5, trying to win a pawn, black can just take on e5, and after queen takes h5, there's a weakness of the last move, and Fischer could play knight takes d3 here, and this is going to be a big advantage, taking out that bishop and still playing also f4. So white plays knight e1, we have g4, and you can see that the light squares are being controlled a little bit more. There's a kind of squeezing strategy going on. f3, knight f6, f4, and now we see knight e7, queen d2, knight g6, knight d5, and this knight refuses to be exchanged off. This gives the option of c6 kicking the d5 knight, and in fact after rook d1 that happens right now. The knight goes back, and now e takes f4. We see e takes f4 here, h5, and it looks as though Fischer's employing a squeezing kind of form pawn plan, trying to get a form pawn, a kind of goal hanging pawn on h3, which would help control even more light squares and provide maybe attacking opportunities later on. We see knight c2, h4, so the form pawn is about to be installed, and modern neural networks like Leela play this strategy all the time, quite frequently, to get this kind of form pawn installation. So Fischer was playing it here in 1967 instinctively as a kind of light square campaign to get more pressure on the light squares. So even though it's blocking black's pieces from a potential attack, this is a long-term investment. This structure, queen c7, we see knight c3, a6, knight d4, knight f8, helping contest the e6 square, b4, rook d8, knight b3, rook e8, a pair of rooks come off, a4, king h7, knight e2, rook e7, a5, king g6, knight c3, bishop f7, dissuading d4 here, putting pressure on c4, rook e1, rook d7, queen c2, and now d5 is played, exploiting this positioning of the queen against queen, the x-ray. White plays bishop b6. As an example, if cd, that knight is now pinned there to the queen. So we see instead bishop b6, and the queen stays around, x-raying the opposing queen, knight e2, and now d takes c4, d takes, rook e7. And this looks like an annoying pin. Bishop c5, rook e8, bishop f2, protecting the rook. But now knight e4, and we see bishop d4, bishop takes d4, knight e takes d4, knight d6, and here is a critical mistake, it seems. Black actually, well, in this position, it seems as though white's kind of stable actually, hasn't done anything too badly wrong until here. It seems as though white should just take off a pair of rooks and attend to the queen e1 threat with, say, king f2. And this situation should be okay. After knight d2, there's pressure on f5 here, so nothing's hanging, it seems, and this should be about equal. Instead, in this position, rook e5 was played. And unfortunately, this is a terrible move tactically. Fischer takes, after f takes, which is very ambitious. You know, if the knight moves, you know, there's a lot of pressure on f5, and there might even be knight takes e4 for bishop e4. White would be, maybe White was overexcited. You know, for example, here there's bishop e4 as an example. Maybe White got overexcited by this prospect, but the whole thing is dispelled as a kind of myth with this next move by Fischer, which is really quite crushing, actually. Guess what Fischer plays in this position if I give you 5 seconds to pause the video. Okay, Queen e8. Yeah, the knight is refusing to move back because of this Queen e1 checkmate possibility. We see Queen e2. Just to put that on the board, you know, e takes, there's Queen e1. And you can see that's checkmate. So Queen e2, but, you know, alas, c4. There's a big issue with c4. But yeah, I mean, what else though? What else in this position? It's tricky. So, you know, bishop takes c4. We see Queen e3. But now, bishop takes b3, knight takes, and now knight c4. And another pawn's biting the dust. It's been a disaster. We see knight c5, queen e7. Okay, White gets in a little tactic for the moment to get one pawn back. But fundamentally, yeah, this pawn of tech in particular on h3, it's very scary for White. Knight ft7, queen d2. This knight's kind of stranded now on b7 for a moment. We see knight c4, queen c3, and now queen e2, which protects the knight, and the knight's threatening to come in to help the queen, like on f1. We see bishop takes c6, and now in fact knight d2, threatening queen f1 checkmate as one example. Queen c1, but now knight e5. This is absolutely crushing on the light squares, with the other knight coming in on a light square. This is it. As an example, well, Lombardy resigned here if knight c5, knight f3 check, and for example, just mating on g2 or h2. So yes, a crushing end to the game there, and yeah, it did really kind of clearly all go wrong at certain points. So yeah, after knight e5, that's the end of the game. But yeah, the critical mistake can be identified quite clearly in this game, which is rook e5. That really is an over-optimistic move. Maybe that's the problem with when we get overexcited as humans. We see something which looks really attractive and maybe a bit clever. But yeah, it's just got so many downsides. It leaves a weak pawn. It leaves a pin against e1, which would be amazing. That's just a crushing move, queen e8, which was perhaps very unexpected indeed. So yeah, rook e5 spectacularly refuted with queen e8. Such a crushing tactical blow. And the things just went really badly downhill after that, losing c4. Yeah, let's just rewind that. Let's replay bishop takes. So taking out b3 and then e5 dropping. Even though White's getting a pawn back, because, you know, White's got this tactic against e5, you know, queen takes e5, but it doesn't matter. The knight's kind of temporarily stranded there. And yeah, just getting the queen in so aggressively now with the form pawn there, it's just so dangerous. This f1 is a killer, and an f3 is a killer. So yeah, quite an instructive blunder. It shows we've got to be very, very careful tactically when we get overexcited by our own tactical possibilities. You know, what are the downsides of that? Can they be exploited tactically? You've got to be some sort of controlling your excitement against a very strong, resourceful tactical player like Fischer. It's like, got to be careful. Okay, thanks so much.